Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So, if you're watching this, then you got my email. I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention yesterday during class that I was going to be out this afternoon. So, I'm making you a recording of the lesson um, that we would have done in class together. So, I'm going to go through it real quickly here, and then you'll have time to work on your assignment. So in our class today, we're going to be doing Unit 3, Lesson 11. We skipped to Chapter 31. Remember, we skipped 29 and 30. Tomorrow is the last lesson in Unit 3, and that is Chapter 32 in our book. So for homework tonight, you should read Chapter 32. Now, if you go to the link in your class announcement where I loaded the slides for today's lesson, you can get the link to the video that I have here for you to watch at the beginning of this lesson. This is just something interesting that I'd like you to watch, and then you can just, think about it. But it is a video that talks about the Wizard of Oz. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, The Wizard of Oz, or read the book, but it talks about the hidden meaning of this story. And if you look at this little poster I have on the board here, it talks about all the symbolism in that story. Well, why am I bringing this up to you? Is because this story was written during the time period that we've been studying, the Gilded Age. And they're saying the theory is there's a lot of connections between this story and what's going on in the United States at that time. So it's just something really interesting. You can pause this recording and go find the link to the video and take a look at that video. And then come back to the recording. All right, so getting to our lesson for today. I'm going to skip ahead. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about the presidential election of 1896 and how it changed the direction of our country. All right, so in the election of 1896, many people say it's one of the most important elections in our nation's history. It was between two candidates with very different views of how they thought the country should be changing, and the decision for this election would change the direction our nation would take going into the 20th century. Okay, so the two people in this election are William Jennings Bryan and William McKinley, and you can see their pictures here. William Jennings Bryan was a young man from Nebraska that no one took seriously until he spoke at a Democratic convention. He was then nominated for president by both the Democrats and the Populist Party. He supported the idea of silver and many of the ideas the populists had. He criticized the unfairness in the economic system, especially for farmers and working class people, and he believed in broad democracy. William McKinley, on the other side, was a Republican. He was an honest man. He supported gold as our economic standard, and he was conservative. He saw no reason for government to get involved with the big businesses or to try to control them. So they're two very opposite people. All right, so here's, I think I read all this. You can skim through this page a little bit. Just read the different points here. When you're ready to move on, you can pause this if you need to pause it to read it further. All right. So what was different about them was the way they campaigned for president. And we've just had an election, so you guys should understand what a campaign is. Usually in a campaign, the candidates travel all around, they talk to people, they make speeches, they show up at parties. And this is what William Jennings Bryan did. He traveled on a train. And remember, there's no television back then. There's not even radio, really. So the only way they could get their message out is by talking in person or by newspaper, magazine, or mail. So what he decided to do was the train would stop on the train track in a town. He would stand on the end of the train like you see in this picture, and he would give a speech. He talked about lots of different things, mainly about the idea of how silver could solve our economic problems because in our country, all of our money is based on gold. But many populists thought if we used silver, that would help. And if you look through here, some of the things we talked about yesterday were some of the things that he was in favor of. He was very much against the railroad companies and the big utilities because he thought they were greedy and they took advantage of people. And he thought that maybe the government should control them. And throughout his campaign, he spent about $300,000. That sounds like a lot of money, I guess. All right, so think about this question. Who do you think supported William Jennings Bryan? Well, we talked about it this week in class. If you're thinking farmers, then you would be correct. And the working class people, of course. Okay, on the other side, we have William McKinley. He's the Republican candidate. He's honest, and as I said before, he's very opposite of the other guy, Bryan. He believes the gold standard is completely fine to keep our economy going, and the way that we can fix our money problems is charging people more money for things. People liked him. He was able to bring them together, and he believed that the future of our country was with big businesses, because ultimately big businesses are going to give people jobs, and that's how people are going to fix their money problems. He didn't think the government should bother the big business. He thought that the government should leave them alone. And he thought, all of these things would fix themselves if the businesses were successful. All right, in his campaign, he did things a little bit different. He did not travel very much. He stayed at home. People came to him. He would stand on the front porch of his house and he would give speeches. Then he would pay other people to go around the country and give speeches for him. Okay? So instead of him going out and campaigning, he had other people do it for him. The railroads supported him a lot, and so did other big businesses. So they gave him money to help with his campaign. One thing that he did that had not been done before is that they mailed out 120 million pamphlets printed in 10 different languages and sent them around the country to voters. Now, today people do that all the time, but back then this was a new thing. And they made these little pamphlets they mailed out sounded like Bryan was dangerous and scary and we should never vote for him because he's going to ruin our country. So in all, McKinley spends $4 million on his campaign. Whoa, that is a lot of money. All right, so of course we can't have a campaign for president without some kind of controversy, and here it is. Many Americans wanted the reforms the populists called for. They wanted laws to improve working conditions. They wanted shorter working hours. They wanted laws to prevent employers from hiring children for adult jobs. Many believed the railroads and the big utilities should be owned by the government and run for all people. And most wanted to see farmers helped. But there were some things that were worrisome about Bryan. He was dividing the country into warring groups. He wasn't trying to bring the corporations and the common people together. He was picking a fight with the money interests, and he was supported by nativists and other hate groups. Oh, that's a big problem. We're talking about, remember when we talked about those discriminatory groups like the KKK and the Know Nothing Party? Well, yeah, those people were the racist groups in the country, and they were supporting Bryan. So that kind of hurt him a lot. All right, so who ends up winning this election? Well, think about this and just think to yourself, which one would you vote for? The winner was William McKinley. He won the election. Well, it's not a surprise being that he spent $4 million. All the business interests fought back and helped him win. It was the company, the corporation that would dominate the 20th century, and some say the American people made that choice in 1896. So that is a big election in our history. All right, now we're going to move on really quick. This video is going to run out of time here in a minute, so I got to tell you guys quickly what to do next. In Seesaw, you are going to see another activity. It is an election poster. I would like you to create an election poster. And here's what you need to include. You're going to choose one of the two candidates that we learned about today, either Bryan or McKinley. And you're going to create a poster supporting their candidacy for president. Now, all this is in the class slides. The link is in the class announcements, so you can go back and look at this, and the directions are in Seesaw. You will earn 4 points on this activity if you include all the parts. So when you get into Seesaw, you're going to see, oh, here's an example. You're going to see some examples of what real election posters look like. But I want you to be creative. Don't copy these. Make your own. Make them colorful and fun. This shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to work on. So in Seesaw, you'll have a blank space in which to put your artwork. You can copy pictures, put the words, put all of the things on that list that are required. Make sure you check to see that you have all of those things on the list. All right, so that is going to be your assignment for today. Please don't spend any more than 10 to 15 minutes on this activity. It shouldn't take you that long. Other homework is listed here on the screen. Try to get that Seesaw work done today because tomorrow we're going to wrap up Unit 3. I will be back at the regular time tomorrow, and that is it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great afternoon.